Hello students, welcome back to another class of marketing with me Adela Samuel, Head Department of Accounting and Finance, St. Anne's Arts and Science College, Madhavaram. So in today's class we are going to cover the topic functions of marketing. The functions of marketing is going to be divided into three types. The first function of marketing is the exchange function. The second function is the physical supply function. And the third function is the facilitating function. So three types of functions of marketing: exchange, physical supply and facilitating functions. Now under exchange function, we have two different types of functions that takes place. Number one is buying and the second one is selling. So as you all know, exchange means buying and selling of goods. So these are the two functions that comes as part of the exchange function. Under the second physical supply function, we have two types again: transportation and warehousing. So physically supplying the goods function, under that you have the process of transporting the goods from one place to another, and the second function of warehousing the supply. Coming to the third function, facilitating function, you have two types again. They are financing function and the risk bearing function. So in order to facilitate the process of marketing, you need finance and you need to bear the risk if there is any. So these are the two facilitating functions that takes place. So this is what we're going to cover in today's topic. Okay, so first off, we'll start off with the exchange function. So as I told you, the exchange function has two functions: buying function and selling function. So first one is the buying function. What is this buying function? It is the basic function of marketing. So it's the purpose of buying is to satisfy one's demand or one's needs and wants. So they basically go for buying their products in order to satisfy their needs and wants. So that's why we can say that it is one of the basic functions of marketing. We can say that it is an interdependent function because it is dependent on the process of selling. So only if there is a selling process, buying process also happens. So it is an interdependent process. The primary purpose of buying function is to satisfy a person's demand. So that is the primary purpose of any kind of a buying function. Now when they go in for buying, there are certain factors that they need to consider. Number one is the quality that a product has. The quality of the product has to be considered. Then you have the quantity, how much of products you're going to buy. That has to be considered. Then the timing. The buying timing has to be considered. How are you going to buy certain products? It can be either seasonal product, so you buy it during that particular season, or if it's a seasonal product, you can buy it in the off season also when they are offering discounts and sales. So that can also be a thing that you have to consider when buying something. Then you have prices. Depending on the price you go in for buying the product. And you also have to consider the supply of the product. So there are various factors that a person considers when they go in for buying a particular product. So the first function or the basic element of an exchange function is the buying function. The second one is the selling function. So what is this selling function? Selling is the sum total of all the activities that push the commodity to the buyers at a profitable price. Okay, so what they tend to do is they tend to try to persuade customers, attract customers by talking to them and trying to push it into the hands of the customers. That is what is the selling function. So again, as I told you in the buying function, selling is also dependent on buying. So unless there are people to buy, you cannot sell. So again, it is a interdependent function. The role of selling in marketing is to ensure that the right product is made available at the right place, in the right quantity, at the right price and at the right time. so that customers will buy it and they will be able to satisfy their needs and wants. That is the major role that the selling function plays. And we can also say that selling function is an art. You have to be very creative in order to sell your products. So the process of trying to sell and trying to convince your customers, all this is required in the process of selling. That's why they say that selling function is an art. So these are the two first basic functions of exchange, buying and selling. The second function that we are going to focus on is the physical supply function. Physical supply function. This again involves two types of functions, transportation and warehousing. First we'll see transportation. So transportation is the physical means to move the goods from a place where it is not required to a place where it is demanded. It is responsible for creating ways, etc. So what they say about transportation is that it creates place utility because the products are demanded in various places. So it cannot be just produced and sold in the same place. So this product can be produced in one place and the products can be sold in another place. So this place utility, this gap is going to be present from the place of manufacturing to the place of selling. So this process of transportation, it tries to cover this gap of place utility. So transport the goods from the place where it is manufactured, it takes it to the place where it is demanded. That is why it is one of the important functions under the marketing process. And as I told you, it uses a number of ways to transport the goods. It uses railways, roadways, airways and waterways, all types of ways in order to send the products from one place to another place so that the process of transportation takes place smoothly and the customers receive the products in the place where they demand it and use it for their benefit. That is the first process under physical supply function. The second function is warehousing. So the products are to be preserved from the time of production to the time of consumption and they cannot be sold immediately. That is why warehousing is an important function here. So you produce it at one point of time and you cannot immediately sell it. That is why we go for the process of storing it safely in a warehouse. So this is done by this storage function, and storage is the base for any consumer to get his goods as and when they require it. So products can be produced today but it can be consumed 1 year later. So till that time, what has to be done with the products? It has to be stored somewhere safely. That is where storage function plays an important role. It has to be stored safely and it has to be sent to the consumers as and when they require them. But this warehousing process can store only products that can stay for a long time. If you store perishable goods for a long time, it will not be useful for the customers. Perishable goods, you can store it and then immediately sell it off. So that is another process that they need to remember under the warehousing function. So when you say physical supply function, it involves two major functions, transportation function and the warehousing function. Next one we are going to see is facilitating function. Under the facilitating function, we had two, financing function and risk bearing function. First, we'll start off with the financing function. Finance, as we call it, is the lifeblood of any business activity. So finance is defined as the provision of money at the time it is wanted. Whenever you want money, when there is a provision of money, we consider that as finance. Finance, we can say that it is like a lubricant that facilitates the operation of marketing. So if you want your marketing process to function properly, it is like an oil that supports a machine to run. So finance is like an oil that helps in the process of marketing properly. Okay. So every business will require finance from time to time from the time of incorporation till the time of liquidation, we know that every organization or a business will require finance. The process of providing finance to a business is called as business finance. And the process of providing finance to a marketing activity, we can term it as marketing finance. Okay, so this marketing finance, you can get it through the process of various sources. So you can get it through various sources for a long time purpose as well as for a short term purpose. So if you go for a company, you can get it through commercial banks or central bank, cooperative banks. So through these banks, you can get finance on a long term basis or for a short term basis. You can get loans from different banks for running your business. So all these are various sources through which you can get your finance. Or you can go in for declaring shares. Shares will fetch you finance to run the company. So all these are ways or sources through which a company can get its finance. Unless and until there is enough of finance or there is a continuous flow of finance, a marketing process cannot happen or a business concern cannot function smoothly. So finance is like a lifeblood to the organization. That is the first function under facilitating function. The next function is the risk bearing function. When you say risk bearing, every business has to have some kind of a risk. Risk is a universal function. It is even present in the marketing process. So when you say marketing risk, it is defined as the uncertainty in regard to the cost or the loss or any damage that happens. Any uncertainty that happens, we can consider that as risk. So risk is a danger of loss arising out of unforeseen circumstances which happens. And this loss can be caused due to different reasons. Reasons like it can be caused due to fire or flood or a cyclone or a theft that has happened. Theft means somebody has stolen your products from the warehouse, or if there is some mismanagement happening, or there is some insects coming and eating up all your products which were stored in the warehouse. Things like this can happen. Any kind of a uncertainty that happens, we consider, which will cause a loss for the company, we consider that as a risk. Now, this risk has to be borne by somebody, or it has to be shifted to some other person, or it should be reduced, or it should be borne by somebody. So who will bear this risk? In this case, in any marketing process, an insurance company will play an important role. So they will go in for bearing the risk that happens for a company. So if you start off a company, you can go in for insuring your products so that the risk will be borne by the insurance company. So this process of insurance plays a very important role in helping or solving the problem of risk bearing. So this is the second function that marketing process plays, risk bearing, under the facilitating function. So these are the various functions that you need to remember under the process of marketing. So students, in today's class we have seen the functions of marketing. Under the functions of marketing, we have covered three different types of functions: the exchange function, physical supply function, and the facilitating function. Under the exchange function, we have seen the buying and the selling function. Under the physical supply function, we have seen transportation and warehousing. And under the third facilitating function, we have covered financing and warehousing function. So I hope you have understood clearly all these functions. These are the usually asked questions. So I hope you have understood clearly and you have liked this video. Thank you, students.